The Greatest Thing in the World by Henry Drummond. The Analysis. Part 10. My name is Steve Van Eiderstein, and welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. And thank you all for joining me as we go through and we do this last instance of the virtues from Henry Drummond's book, The Greatest Thing in the World, lecture, and that turned into a book. And we are currently going through the second part of this book that he duly titled The Analysis. This book, again, is based upon 1 Corinthians 13, Paul's letter to the Corinthians. Almost forgot there for a second. In that, he identifies 9 aspects of love. And what Henry Drummond did was he took all 9 of those aspects and he transposed them into a virtue that, just a single word virtue that we are able to expand upon. And it gives us a little bit more application of it, or a little bit more context, or a little bit better way to apply it to our lives. So let's take a look at the first 8 that were listed. This is going to be the 9th one, so 9 of 9. And the first one was patience. Second was kindness. Third was generosity. Fourth was humility. Fifth was courtesy. Sixth, unselfishness. 7, good temper. 8, guilelessness. That was a fun one. I enjoyed doing guilelessness. And now for the final one, sincerity. And it's actually, I think this might have been, I don't know. All of these virtues were fantastic. I loved every single one of them, reading them and doing a little bit of exploration with it. This one was, to be fair, it's the second shortest one. Humility was the was the shortest one. And this is the second shortest one. It's only 3 sentences, I believe. And which is kind of interesting, because humility, in other books I've read, humility is the mother of all virtues, and that's the one all other virtues stem from. So for humility to be the shortest, it's pretty interesting. And then sincerity to be the second shortest, and I do believe sincerity is probably the second most important virtue that we talk about of these 9. It's interesting that they both seem to be self-evident as to their importance. That's why maybe Henry Drummond shortened them up, or didn't think it was necessary to expand on them as much. So let's go ahead and we'll just go right into it. Like I said, it's a very short reading, but I'm excited to go through it with you all. So here we go. This is the final virtue from the analysis section of Henry Drummond's book, The Greatest Thing in the World. And then love is sincere, wears no mask, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, rejoiceth not in our doctrine, in this church's doctrine, or in that church's doctrine, in this ism or that ism, but rejoiceth in the truth. And that's the end of the reading. Like I said, very short, and remember as well, this is an 1891 printed copy. Everybody else most likely has a newer version if you're following along, so there might be some substantial differences. I'm not sure where that revision came in, but again, I like to keep it as close to the original as I possibly can when I do these reviews. So, loved that though. Holy cow. Truth. Love rejoiceth in truth. What a beautiful thing. Sincerity. It gives an aspect of it that, or an application of it and an interpretation of it that I think is crucial. It's such a critical thing to incorporate into our lives when we're trying to be loving people, when we're trying to practice love in everything that we do, right? It's straightforward. as sincerity should be, this reading is. And now I want to, every single virtue Henry Drummond has defined in terms of love. Now, if you remember from guilelessness, he summarized both guilelessness and sincerity. And he summarized sincerity as love learning. What a beautiful way to say that. What a beautiful application of love. Love learning, growing in knowledge and understanding, learning, and just to expand with love, right? The honest application of love. And I think we need a little bit more of that today. So let's go ahead and we'll break this down line by line. It'll be probably a shorter episode today, even though this is substantial. It's pretty straightforward when we get into it. So he opens it up with, and this love is sincere, wears no mask. Wears no mask. Something so many of us do. Something that I've personally struggled with a lot in the entirety of my life, especially before I got into recovery and started the spiritual journey. Wearing masks, I thought, was just the normal thing we did. I thought we put on a show for everybody. I thought we were supposed to present to everybody in a certain way that we thought they would find acceptable. Well, turns out that's not what we're supposed to be doing. That's not a loving heart. It's actually the complete opposite of being loving. It's manipulative. It's deceptive to put on this mask. It's deceptive to wear a character. It's deceptive to do all of these things. It's deceptive to portray yourself inauthentically. This is the opposite of sincerity, right? Sincere means what? Authentic. It means genuine. It means to be a person of integrity. Now, I don't know about you, but that's something I struggled with for a very, very long time. It's something that I've had a problem with for as long as I could remember. I thought that I wasn't able to actually be an authentic human being. I thought I wouldn't be accepted by people. I thought people would reject me. I thought people would push me away. I thought people would hate me the way I hated myself. So I hid myself and tried to put on this display of a person that I thought you would like. I talk about this often, actually, with other people. And it's just funny, the insanity that comes from that. I'm putting on a face, and I'm presenting a character that I have come up with because of what I think you think I should be. So it's just complete made up nonsense. And me trying to appease what I could, to the best of my ability, discern would be somebody you would like. Or would be somebody that I would get me what I wanted out of the interaction and out of the relationship. It was completely performative. It was completely manipulative. It was never who I actually was. That term integrity was so far outside the realm of possibility for me. I was broken up into little pieces of me all over the place, depending on who you were talking to, whether it was friends, whether it was coworkers, whether it was family, whether it was my partner, whether it was myself, honestly. I was somebody different to everybody I met because I just tried to be someone you'd like. And I didn't even realize I was doing it. I didn't realize I didn't have to do it. I wasn't always trying to be malicious. I wasn't always trying to hurt somebody with it. I was trying to protect myself, though. Because I couldn't stand rejection. I couldn't stand abandonment. I couldn't stand hatred. The pushing away of me. And what I've come to find out, that authenticity, that genuineness, that sincerity of living that this first line refers to, that's something so many people actually strive for, and so many people actually are attempting to embody, that they want to be able to have, and what they want to be able to apply in their lives, but they just can't seem to get a grasp on it. So many people crave this sincerity, to not wear a mask, to be authentically who they are, to be able to own them, who they are completely and 100%. Without fear, without worry. So many people wish they could be sincere. Sometimes they wish they could be sincere with themselves. For a long time, I didn't know whether I was lying to myself about things or not. I've lost track of what was real and what wasn't real. I wouldn't say I became psychotic, but I became delusional. I would tell myself this web of lies as to why someone didn't like me, and I'd make up a story, and then I'd have to believe it, because I couldn't stand the idea that they would just reject me, or I couldn't stand the idea that maybe I'd done something wrong. In a lot of ways, at least in the Western world, we become a performative society. We become people that we think those around us want us to be or desire us to be. And sometimes we become the person we would prefer to be than the person we actually are. We've lost ourselves along the way. We've lost our authenticity along the way. We've lost our ability to actually act congruently with our character. And when we do that, when we lose that piece of us, when we lose that sense of authenticity, when we lose touch with what's honest and real, it's very isolating, because the world we're living in then is only our own. It's just us there with a bunch of characters that we've made up. Sincerity allows us to actually engage with the world honestly and lovingly. Without sincerity, you cannot truly practice love, because it's not you that's practicing it. It's the stage name that you have. It's the character you've made up. Sincerity is required to be genuinely loving towards other people. And it takes practice too. It's not a light switch. It's not a quick transition. The practice of sincerity actually allows us to grow. It allows us to own those things we're not good at. It allows us to acknowledge what 12-step community would call character defects or shortcomings. It would allow us to see our selfishness and our self-centeredness, but it would also allow us to see our qualities, our talents, our skills, the things we can be of service to other people with. Without sincerity, we don't grow. We don't mature. We don't become the fullest extent of who we can be, because we're not even acknowledging who we are. We'd rather step into a costume. We'd rather step into a persona. We'd rather step into somebody else than develop the person that is real and authentic. Without sincerity, we miss the mark a lot of times. Without sincerity, we're just trying to maintain a mask that we're putting in front of our faces, that we're presenting to the world. And we become more fearful of that mask being found out and the inauthenticity being discovered. So we're more worried about maintaining the presentation of the character we've stepped into rather than actually authentically growing and developing who we are. This lack of sincerity is crippling. Absolutely crippling. We don't necessarily realize it, though. If you're anything like me, we just think that's what we're supposed to be doing. And then I end up horrifically isolated without feeling like anyone understands me, without feeling like I can connect with anybody, without feeling like the world cares that I'm alive or that I'm dead. Without sincerity, I was unable to form genuine connections. I was unable to be authentic in my interactions. And when you're not authentic in your interactions, no one's meeting you. No one knew who I was. I was Steve 1, Steve 2, Steve 3, Steve 4. I was variations and iterations of Steve. I was never just authentically Steve to everybody I came across. I was just derivatives of myself. And because of that, it was just me versus the world. It was just me fighting upstream the whole way because I had to make sure that people believed what I needed them to believe, so I felt comfortable, safe, and secure and loved, and I was able to manipulate people to get what I wanted at times. I was a desperate person, terrified and scared, and that's the practice of sincerity and being genuine with people was not even something I would have considered to be possible, if I'm honest. It seemed so far away. And I sank into more and more isolation because of it. Of my own doing. May I add, I don't want this to sound like I'm blaming society or blaming somebody. This was all my own choosing. Even though I might not have realized I was choosing it at the time, I did choose it. No one knew who I was, and I was happy about that. But I didn't get why I felt so alone. I reflect on these types of things, and well, of course, right? But you don't know what you know now, I guess, at the end of the day. But what Drummond's telling us here is to actually be a loving person, is to act with authenticity. It's to act in sincerity. It's to act with integrity and honesty and be a genuine person. Because that's the only way we connect with other people. That's the only way we can actually help people. That's the only way we can demonstrate love to somebody else, is to be sincere about it. To be who we are when we're practicing it. It's the only way love can show through, is when we're practicing sincerity. And now and the next part is the actual verse from the Bible chapter, and it says, "Rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth." Now, I looked up iniquity just so we have a definition there, and it is wickedness, injustice, crime, evil. So it wants nothing to do with it. Love has no desire to participate in any of that. Wickedness, injustice, crime, and evil. Love celebrates just, kind, and honest things. Love celebrates loving things. Love celebrates integrity and authenticity. Love celebrates truth. Love rejoiceth in truth. Truth is where you will find love. That is where love wants to be anyway. That is where we crave to be, is in truth. I didn't necessarily realize it. I don't think I actually understood what truth was. I didn't know anything past my own experience and perspective. And without that, I didn't have any grounding. In reality, I didn't have any grounding in the world. And I just felt lost, listless, with no purpose in my life. So to read this, that love rejoiceth in truth, it at least gave me some direction. And that's why he says sincerity. Because truth can only be found through authenticity. It can only be found through honesty and integrity. Without those things, truth is not available. Because we're not living in the real world. We're not living in reality. We're not living in a place where truth exists. Now, Drummond expands upon this, and I love this. I love this part. He says, rejoiceth, that's a hard word for me to say for some reason, so excuse me, rejoiceth not in our doctrine, in this church's doctrine, or in that church's doctrine, or in this ism or that ism, but rejoiceth in truth. Wow. Let me tell you something. This was, like I said, this was done in the 1880s. For Henry Drummond to actually say, rejoiceth not in our doctrine, in this church's doctrine or that church's doctrine, in this ism or that ism, that is some dangerous stuff to say, actually. Because there were many that considered church doctrine absolute. There were many that considered it heresy, potentially, even say something like that. But this is such a powerful statement. It's such a powerful statement and so incredibly applicable today in so many ways, in so many aspects. This is what we need to actually remember, right? He's saying, do not just subscribe to the ideologies and follow blindly to a religious practice. Not to a singular kind of ideology or thinking or one camp or another. Do not just toe the line because it's what someone's telling you to do. That's someone telling you to do it, right? We're talking about a God-inspired love within us, a love coming from that power greater than yourself, whatever that is to you, whether it's a deity, whether it's a Christian God, whether it's Mother Nature, whether it's the universe and just the energy within it. I don't care where that comes from for you, but what we're talking about is the love that directly results within us from that, and that we bring with us into the world, right? That is not dictated through doctrine. Love is experienced through these practices. And when you go and practice them, you will experience love. Others will experience a loving part of you. Love will just be something you find in your life when you practice these, right? Love rejoiceth in truth. If this was not truth, love would not be there. Love seeks out truth. Love results from truth. And that doesn't mean this group of people have love and that group of people do not have love, because I can tell you from being a part of many different types of groups of people, there is no group of people that are all embodying love. There just isn't. The closest I've found are the rooms of recovery, actually. But just following the rules of this church or this group or that group or this political affiliation or that one or this demographic or that demographic or this ideology or that ideology, just because it doesn't mean it's truth. It doesn't mean it's real. What Drummond's actually I won't say actually, but a part of it, of what Drummond is saying here, or what we have to understand, is that there is truth in this world. There is a truth where love actually exists in this world. And that means it's not our subjective experience of what it could be. It's not a perspective. It's not our opinions, but there is real truth. Now, I know that didn't sound, there probably going to be a few people that don't like that, but that's okay. But I thought, because I experienced something, that was the truth of the situation. But it turns out I was a highly delusional person in a lot of ways. I would make up stories and then believe my own stories because it made me feel better about myself. And I did this regularly. Now, there was truth in the fact that that was my experience. That's how it made me feel. But that doesn't mean that's what really happened. I would be such an overly sensitive person. I would take things personally all the time. And I thought people would be intentionally attacking me. And I thought people would be intentionally trying to upset me or belittle me or do things to harm me. And it wasn't true at all. I was just overly sensitive. Now, if you had asked me in those moments, I was absolutely sure that was the truth of the situation. Turns out I was wrong. I was wrong all the time. And I realized my own bias, my own perception, my own understandings tainted so much of what I thought was true. My truth, this idea that it's my truth, I don't subscribe to that anymore. I subscribed more so that was my experience. But I still know today that my experience can be flawed. I only know sometimes my experience until I ask more questions. The truth is usually outside of my experience and I need to seek it. But I can only do that through the practice of a sincere heart, a loving heart, an honest and authentic heart, where I embrace my insecurities, where I embrace my fears, where I confront them, I address them, I'm not ashamed of them, and I bring them to the forefront, and I actually have honest conversation about what happened and what's going on with me, and then I get to grow, and that's what I was talking about previously. That is the only place we get to grow. Everything else is just compensating for fear, and we just let it grow, and we let the fear fester, and we let the insecurity drive our decisions. There is truth. We do have our perspectives and our experiences and our opinions. But that is not the truth we're talking about here. There is real and honest truth that I've now come to find and experience. And it was hard for me. It was hard for me to actually come to a place where I knew I needed to seek the truth. I needed to seek an honest way of living. I needed to seek these things out. And we live in a world today that celebrates everything but the truth. It doesn't matter what camp you're in, what you believe, what aspect of things, what perspective you take. There's delusion in all of it. There's misunderstanding in all of it. There's bias and fear everywhere. So to find truth, to orient yourself to seek truth in all of your experiences is a heck of an undertaking. And a responsibility only willfully taken on and intentionally taken on. And Drummond says this because he knows, as I found myself, anything that has human beings involved with it will eventually have selfishness and self-centeredness incorporated into it. Because human beings by nature are selfish and self-centered. That's why doctrines get corrupted. That's why people fail at holding up principle. That's why ideologies become twisted. That's why everything that started out with good intentions and direction can become selfish and self-centered and damaging and harmful. And instead of truth-oriented, it will be self-oriented. And when that happens, a lot of harm can occur. So love rejoiceth in truth. Actual truth. Everlasting, permanent truths. Principled truth. The truth that was here before we got here, that will be here after we leave. The truth that's always existed. That is where we find love. It's in that sincere willingness to face the reality of the world, to be authentic in the face of fear and rejection, to be honest when we're scared of consequence, to be genuine when helping each other. That is love learning. That is sincerity. And that is what we all must hold on to have a loving heart, to demonstrate love through us to others in our lives. So sincerity. Heck of a virtue to end on. So there we go. That was the 9th virtue that Henry Drummond talks about in the analysis. And so we will be done with the virtues, but we are still finishing up the analysis section of this book. And again, there is the defense as well, right? So we have the Henry Drummond's broken this book apart into 3 parts. The contrast, the analysis, and the last portion is the defense. We will be finishing, I think it's going to be 2 sections we do to finish up the analysis, portion of the book, and then we will get into the defense and close it out with that. And that will be another couple of episodes, but it's been a really great time going through the virtues. So I hope you all have enjoyed it. And I look forward to finishing out this section with you over the next couple of episodes. So until next time, thanks.